Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this Thanksgiving-themed episode of the GSMC Book Review Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Thanksgiving is less than a week away, and while I do have one more episode before Thanksgiving gets here, that episode is on a Tuesday, and you know what that means. That means author interview. So I am taking this Friday episode to do a Thanksgiving theme. This was inspired, by Thanksgiving, crazily enough. But also because, as I've mentioned before, I get Audible Originals with my Audible membership. I am not being sponsored by Audible. I just, like listening to audiobooks, and I enjoy the option of getting the Audible Originals. Well, this month being November, one of my choices was, a book called You Can Thank Me Later, and the cover has a pumpkin pie with, a piece cut out, and it says You Can Thank Me Later, and I'm thinking, Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving so often gets lost in the, not the scheme of things, but in the theme of things. We tend to go from Halloween straight to Christmas, I know so many people on social media who put their tree up the day after Halloween, and hey, more power to you. I just, November to me is Thanksgiving, and then we can have Christmas. Which actually makes me wonder, what are your Thanksgiving traditions if you have them? Do you like to just jump from Halloween to the Christmas? Do you kind of skip over Thanksgiving? Or do you have this sort of Thanksgiving mass November where your tree is already up, but you do still celebrate Thanksgiving? In my family, Christmas was not decorated until, the tree didn't go up until about a week before Christmas, because we usually went out into the woods and cut our own, and those tend to dry out rather quickly. So to avoid as many, you can't completely avoid needles on the floor, but in order to try and avoid some of those dry needles on the floor, we didn't put our tree up until a week before Christmas. And my parents have since switched to an artificial tree, but they still don't put their tree up if mom has her way until about a week before Christmas, and then it comes down on New Year's Day. I am a little more, I like the tree up. I just like that tree with the lights on, and the tree lights on and the house lights off at night. So I'll put mine up. I prefer it to be after December 1st. My husband would like it up now. He's one of those. We have compromised by, I try to get him to at least wait until the day after Thanksgiving, and then I put it up. I do prefer December, but that's okay. Family, traditions. We used to, growing up, go to my paternal grandparents' house for Thanksgiving and my maternal grandparents' house for Christmas. We stopped doing the Thanksgiving trip. I don't quite remember when, but then we started having Thanksgiving at home, and I don't really have a set Thanksgiving tradition anymore. I mean, I have several. So if I'm home, if I'm actually able to go home to Montana, then yes, of course, I will spend it with my parents and whoever is able to come that year. When I lived in Texas, I lived with my aunt, my mom's sister, and we would go somewhere for Thanksgiving. And we went to San Antonio one year, we went to San Diego one year, and then when I moved to California after living with her for 3 years, she came out to California a couple of times, and then she moved to New Jersey, so I went to visit her in New Jersey. So Thanksgiving used to be about traveling with my auntie, or to my auntie, as the case may be, or she would come to me. So that was fun, and we ate out a lot on Thanksgiving, so we went to different places, and that was a new experience for me. Now that I am married and still living in California, my hubby has some friends that he has spent every Thanksgiving that he is here and not home in Ohio or in Montana, or, whatever we might be doing now that we're married, but pretty much every Thanksgiving for the last 20 years with one of his really good friends. So we have continued that tradition, and we've been together 9 years now. So I guess it can be a tradition. We've gone there every year but one. Even one year when my aunt was here, she went with us. So she was included in that tradition. But at any rate, this Audible original novella, as I mentioned, it is called You Can Thank Me Later. It is by Kelly Harms, and it is, it has a very Thanksgiving-y cover with, a tablecloth and a what looks like a pumpkin pie with a piece cut out of it, and place settings, etc. So it's very Thanksgiving looking, which sucked me in because I like a good theme, and I like to read books with a good theme. I didn't read the description. I just downloaded it. I was like, yay, Thanksgiving. And the cover looks kind of whimsical. It's not as whimsical as I expected it to be. It's a lovely story. Let me give you the description. When the Dickinson clan sits down for Thanksgiving dinner in 2016, this is a short and sweet audio novella that'll leave listeners wanting second helpings. You Can Thank Me Later follows an unforgettable family over the course of 3 Thanksgivings. So when the Dickinson clan sits down for Thanksgiving dinner in 2016, it is the last holiday when their tight-knit family will ever be the same. Oldest brother Pete and his wife are expecting their first child. Youngest sibling Sophie is too busy running her restaurant, The Little Plum, to bother with any kind of social life. And middle child Charlie's happy, uncomplicated life as a Midwestern science professor is upended when his wife Annette is diagnosed with a terminal illness. Knowing this will be her last Thanksgiving, Annette asks Sophie to look after Charlie after she's gone, which would be a lot easier if Charlie didn't show up with an insufferable new girlfriend at the next holiday meal. From the best-selling author of The Overdue Life of Amy Byler, this heartwarming novella embraces the spirit and gratitude of the holiday and shows how a family's love can endure anything. So, yeah, you start out, and it's Thanksgiving 2016, so it's 3 Thanksgivings, 2016, 2018, and 2020, and so it goes into the future. Ooh, it's science fiction. You start out with Sophie, who is, a restaurant owner, a chef, and she is preparing Thanksgiving dinner, and then the cast of characters starts arriving, her 2 brothers and their wives, and you get to know them a little bit. She and Annette were best friends in college, and she's actually the one that kind of got her brother and her best friend together. And their parents live in Arizona, so it's just the siblings and their, the brothers' wives and whatever random guy Sophie brings to the Thanksgiving party. And usually she then names the next year's turkey after that date. So this year's turkey in 2016 is called Bruce, after Bruce, who came to dinner in 2015. So there are definitely silly little quirky things, but you find out very quickly that Annette has cancer. It is returned. She has a genetic disposition toward this rare form of very terminal cancer, and so she asks Sophie to take care of Charlie, and then things move forward from there. So they don't really do much for 2017, and I'm not giving anything away because you find out that Annette is dying in the description of the book, and she does pass very quickly in the novella. And then you get this whole trying to pick up the pieces because Charlie has lost his wife and Sophie has lost her best friend. They're trying to figure out going forward how that all works. Then Charlie meets someone new, and Sophie does not like this person because she is not Annette, and there is a lot of trying to figure out those relationships. So in some ways, it is very, very typical Thanksgiving because it is a family that gathers together, and they're not perfect. They have their dysfunctions. They have their arguments. Sophie refuses to answer voicemail, and every year there's a different voicemail message of hers telling people not to leave her voicemail, and because she won't listen to them, and her brothers continue to leave her voicemails. So that is a theme. So there's definitely those little quirkiness. It's charming. It's sweet. It's got lots of good family moments. It was not the lighthearted novella I was expecting when I didn't read the description. When I just judged the book by its cover. But yeah, I enjoyed it as a Thanksgiving and as a Thanksgiving themed novella. You don't often get that, and since it does take place over 3 Thanksgivings, you definitely get the Thanksgiving theme. Sometimes books have Thanksgiving in them, but it's just kind of a prelude to Christmas. Like it'll start around Thanksgiving, but it's really a Christmas book or a Christmas movie, right? So I appreciated that this is a whole Thanksgiving themed book novella, and I very much enjoyed it. After I got used to the fact that this was not going to be the whimsical as I expected. I really got to start reading blurbs before I jump in. That's okay. I like the surprise. I enjoyed it very much. And if you are looking for a Thanksgiving themed, in this case, it's an audiobook, although according to Kelly Harms's website, it is supposed to be coming out in print form at some point. So maybe for next year, if you want to read it, or for this year, if you want to listen to it, you have an option. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the podcast. When we come back, more books with a Thanksgiving-y theme. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. As you know, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, I love a good theme, and I like books, whatever holiday is coming up, I tend to like to look for books around that theme. Thanksgiving, as I mentioned in the first segment, can be tricky because a book will often have something about Thanksgiving in it, but it won't necessarily be about Thanksgiving. It might start with Thanksgiving, but really just be a prelude to the Christmas season, kind of like life. If you're looking for Thanksgiving books, the best and most prolific source of books is obviously children's books, and there are a million of those. 'Twas the Night Before Thanksgiving. I have talked about that book before. I have talked about that series before. There are, if you have a series of books that you like to read with your kids, chances are good that there is a Thanksgiving themed one. There's, Amelia Bedelia has a Thanksgiving book. I'm sure Junie B. Jones does. Other books are, Thanks for Thanksgiving, Give Thanks for Each Day. These are pre-K books. Bear Says Thanks, 10 Fat Turkeys. That's a board book, so I'm sure, that's a counting book. The Very Stuffed Turkey. A Thanksgiving story featuring a large turkey with a big problem. He's been invited to everyone's home for Thanksgiving. That sounds scary. It's hard to do a whimsical story about Thanksgiving when, anyway. Splat the Cat. Splat Says Thank You. The Thankful Book. Turkey Trouble. Feeling Thankful. And so we're getting into like pre-K to grades 2. Clifford's Puppy Days. There's a Thanksgiving themed book in that. The Great Turkey Race. Cassie, Wing, and Ollie all want to be chosen as the Thanksgiving turkey. No, you do not want to be chosen as the Thanksgiving turkey. But anyway, they decide to have a contest to see which of them Farmer Joe should pick. Maybe I don't like Thanksgiving children's books. They're kind of depressing me. I know too much. I just know what happens to Thanksgiving turkeys. The Pilgrim's First Thanksgiving, Little Critter, Just So Thankful. Of course, there's a Little Critter. As I said, Amelia Bedelia. The Great Thanksgiving Escape. It's another Thanksgiving at Grandma's. Gavin expects a long day of boredom and being pestered by distantly related toddlers, but his cousin Rhonda has a different idea. So they are going to escape the family dinner. Don't do it, you two. Don't do it. As I mentioned, 'Twas the Night Before Thanksgiving. Many Nations. So if you're looking for a maybe a different take than just the Pilgrim perspective on Thanksgiving. This is from Anishinaabe artists making birch bark bowls to Zuni elders saying prayers for the day that is done. The diversity of Native American cultures is presented simply in this unique and beautiful alphabet book. And the pictures on this look really lovely. So if you're looking for a different perspective, there are options out there. Nancy Drew. I did not know that there was an elementary age Nancy Drew series. See, I learn something new every time I do this podcast. Nancy Drew and the Clue Crew. This is Thanksgiving Thief. It's for grades 2 through 4, and River Heights Elementary School is having a Thanksgiving pageant, and Nancy, Bess, and George want to dress up. But when the town starts preparing for Thanksgiving dinner, the girls end up smelling a mystery instead of a turkey. I had no idea that there was younger Nancy Drew books out there, and now I'm going to have to look into them because, I'm going to have to. That's just what I do. There was an old lady who swallowed a turkey. There's a bunch of these. I mean, obviously it's based on there was an old lady who swallowed a fly, but there was, there's a bunch of these. I think my mom actually has, there was an old lady who swallowed a turkey. And, actually that could be said about a lot of us. There was a podcast host who swallowed way too much turkey and, stuffing and pie and mashed potatoes and dinner rolls. I saw something on Facebook recently, and I need to look it back up because I don't know that I'm remembering it exactly correctly, but it was a list of how to plan for how much to cook for Thanksgiving. And one of the tips was to make 1.5 pounds of mashed potatoes for each person at your table. I mean, that makes me think I'm not going to eat 1.5 pounds of mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving dinner, but I guess if you take into account leftovers and everything, my mom always used to take mashed potatoes the next day after Thanksgiving and make, not exactly potato pancakes, but she would add an egg and some flour and make really thick mashed potato-y pancakes, and we'd put syrup on them, and that was good. Now I want a mashed potato pancake. Not exactly a latke, but, our random version of that. So there's lots and lots of books out there if you are looking for children's books, from picture books to a little bit older. And then I'm sure that there will be books for middle grade and young adult readers as well. What I don't find as easy to find, if you will, are Thanksgiving novels, as I keep saying, books for older peoples. Me, I'm old. So I did a search for that. Usually, when you type in Thanksgiving books, mostly what comes up are those children's books, those books for younger readers, which is cool. I mean, I like those as well. But this time I typed in Thanksgiving novels instead. And, this is from fireandicebooktours.com, and it's Thanksgiving books for adults, a list of books for readers of all genres. The first book on this list is simply called Thanksgiving. Makes sense, and it's by Janet Ivanovich. I have talked about her Stephanie Plum series before, and a couple of her other series. I have not read this particular one. It looks like it's a standalone novel. When Megan Murphy discovered a floppy-eared rabbit gnawing on the hem of her skirt, she meant to give its careless owner a piece of her mind, but Dr. Patrick Hunter was too attractive to stay mad at for long. Soon the two are making Thanksgiving dinner for their families. I love blurbs. Like, it's a paragraph to describe 1 to 2 to 300 page books. I'm sure that there's many, many misunderstandings and miscommunications along the way before they get to that whole making dinner for their families, but maybe not. If you are into paranormal romance, it did say it was for all genres, then maybe you want paranormal romance Thanksgiving themed. This one does have mature content, although it says it's recommended for ages 16 plus due to sexual situations and language. So I don't know. I don't think it's full on erotica, but maybe. This one is short stories for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So you can get it and start at Halloween and read through New Year's. It's called Wonder by Christy Cooks. There is a subtitle. I can't read that. Still can't read it. That's a terrible picture. Or maybe I just need new glasses. Anyway, Christy Cook, it's paranormal. It has, it even includes a choose your own ending. So I always died in those. I hope that's not the case in this one. I might have to get this book just to see if I still die and choose your own ending as an adult. But it's a fun collection of holiday short stories and recipes from Christy Cook's internationally best-selling Soul Savers series, which is really good alliteration. Last year's shorts for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's have been rewrapped into one big gift along with new content. Bonus material includes 2 stories for Halloween, including a choose-your-own-adventure type ending. Also find recipes for each holiday submitted by the most avid of Soul Savers fans. That's 11 short stories and 48 recipes in one book ready for the holiday season. So that's cool. Let's see. Stuff yourself with 3 Thanksgiving stories about a baby vampire yearning for a traditional feast, a lost werewolf who finds love, and Tristan, Alexis, and the crew struggling to enjoy dinner when the enemy attacks. Did you ever see the Thanksgiving episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer? There was only one, I think. Usually they just mention Thanksgiving, but there's one where Buffy decides that she's going to cook. Thank you very much. But, oh my gosh, there's of course all kinds of zaniness ensues, including syphilis of all things. Yeah. On that note, I'm going to take another break. And when we come back, we'll finish up talking about some Thanksgiving novels in multiple genres. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. I was just speaking about, well, Buffy and syphilis. I shouldn't have brought that up again, but because I was, before that, talking about a book of paranormal short stories, and 3 of them are Thanksgiving paranormal short stories. So I think that's very fun that you can, it just proves there's something out there for everyone. So the next one is The Thanksgiving Gang, by Russell F. Morin. This is, the sequel to The Gray Ship. It is book 2 of the Time Magnet series. So this sounds like fantasy, science fiction kind of thing. A time travel thriller of terrorism, love, and courage. Jack Thurber has traveled through time again. This was the 4th time he time traveled, earning him a nickname, the Time Magnet. But it's not quite as catchy as a Time Lord, is it? Time Magnet, Time Lord, maybe. But this time he's traveled into the future. He discovers that he and his Navy captain wife, Ashley, were killed in a terrorist nuclear attack on Ashley's ship Thanksgiving Day, 2015. 4 other ships were attacked in what became known as the Thanksgiving attacks. Jack's got to find a way back to the past when he and Ashley were still alive. To do that, he forms a group of people to help him. They call themselves the Thanksgiving Gang. Dare he change history? Dare he not? So there you go. If you're into time travel. Thanksgiving in Sweetwater County by Clara Knight. This is, sounds like a series. Jenna Mitchell Grayson returns to her hometown. Oh, no, maybe not. I just misread that. To run a center for children with autism, divorced and raising a child diagnosed with special needs. She tries to put her life back together in the one place she'd sworn never to return. Ooh, that's always the case, right? Gotta go back to your hometown. Confirmed bachelor, Deputy Walker, has a reputation for being a playboy, but he's never found the right girl to capture his heart. Not since the girl next door, Jenna Grayson, moved away. Now the woman who stole his heart has returned, and he is determined to discover why she left without an explanation or even a goodbye. So that is another romance. It's kind of one of those, returning home kind of stories. Those are usually that, some folks' cups of tea. And then if you like mystery, Turkey Day murder, I don't know. For some reason, murder mysteries involving holidays, like last year for Christmas, I talked about, the ones, oh my goodness, like plum pudding murder, but now I can't think of who wrote those. Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, go back and listen to the Christmas episodes from last year. And I'm sure I'll be talking about other things this year in terms of Christmas. But we're not to Christmas yet. Okay, so Tinker's Cove has, this is by Leslie Meyer, has a long history of Thanksgiving festivities, from visits with Tom Tom Turkey to the annual Warriors high school football game and Lucy Stone's impressive pumpkin pie. But this year, someone has added murder to the menu. I think you have to read it like that. And Lucy intends to discover who left Matinicud? Oh, that's terrible. Matinicud Indian activist Kurt Nolan deader than the proverbial Thanksgiving turkey, with an ancient war club next to his head. Not good. The list of suspects isn't exactly a brief one. Nolan had a bad habit of disagreeing with just about everybody he met. Between fixing a dinner for 12 and keeping her 4 kids from tearing each other limb from limb, Lucy has a pretty full plate already. So what's a little investigation? You got kids home for the holidays, they're running around, they're bored, they're driving you crazy, they're driving each other crazy. You gotta cook dinner for 12. Take on a murder mystery. Makes sense to me. But if she's not careful, she just may find herself served up as a last-minute course. Stone cold dead with all the trimmings. Don't think about that too literally, because it's gross. Yeah. Let's see. This one looks like historical fiction. A Cheyenne Thanksgiving. Carolyn Lee. When Cam McLeod is attacked by a half-starved exotic beauty defending her son on the high Wyoming plains. Wow, that's a mouthful. He's understandably intrigued, and the more he learns about Tess, the more he begins to hope that he's found his chance at a ready-made family. He even manages to talk her into marrying him. As the week turned to months and he realizes how well they fit together, he knows that he's secured his happily ever after. Except for one small detail. Tess refuses to give him her love. Rude. I don't know. If he can convince her that they were made for each other before the end of November, he'll have a reason to truly be thankful. Now, I don't know exactly that it's historical fiction, but the cover makes it look like historical fiction. Come on, list. You should give me better. Let's see. Oh, another cozy mystery. This one's called Cornucopia, a Chloe Boston holiday mystery by Natalie Jackson. It's the 16th book in Melanie Jackson's best-selling Chloe Boston cozy mystery series. Oh, and it's a 27,000 word collection of 5 holiday short stories. So there you go. That's cozy mysteries, but apparently more than one, which is very cool. And it's a cornucopia, but you've got other holidays in there as well. So you've got Halloween again. Oh, I love these. Thanksgiving, the dentist. That's not that doesn't look like it's a holiday themed one. Ugh. The dentist should never be a holiday. A Christmas without, so there's Christmas and then a New Year's Eve. Cool. I love those. Yes, if you're looking for, themed or, short stories, and if you're looking for collections that will get you from Halloween to New Year's, that is awesome. Let's see. So this one says Who Will Survive Thanksgiving? It's by Benny Oh my goodness. K-J-A-E-R. Somebody will have to tell me how to pronounce that. I don't know how to do a K and a J. I'll have to look that up. It's called Sword of the Prophet. Families across the United States are celebrating Thanksgiving with family and friends. An international lone wolf terrorist, the Sword of the Prophet, releases a deadly virus that spreads like wildfire, and there is more to come. Kuno Zell, a businessman with a happy family and a turbulent past, faces the choice between protecting his loved ones and facing the sword. With worldwide terrorism in the daily news, the possibility of bioterrorism. I tell you, I need new glasses. Bioterrorism against the West is a real threat. So, see, there really is something for any genre you would like to read on this list, because now you've got, kind of dystopian apocalyptic, it sounds like. I don't know if it's dystopian, but bioterrorism and deadly virus spreading like wildfire sounds like it to me. So pretty much there are more on this list, but I know that you can do your own searching, and you're probably like, all right, lady, I'm going to go do my own searching. Stop telling me about these books and then making yourself giggle. But really, if you can make yourself giggle, then you can entertain yourself always. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. I know it's still almost a week away, but, and I'll probably wish you a happy Thanksgiving again on Tuesday, but hope you have a wonderful holiday week, as it were. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the GSMC Book Review Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, do all those fun things that make me thankful, like following us on social media, subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, doing all those wonderful things. I will definitely be very, very grateful. And, 'tis the season to give thanks. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.